a number of years ago, the people of this cathedral gathered together and began to pray about how we could honor Bishop Frank Cerveny, who was both the dean of this cathedral and bishop of the Diocese of Florida for many years. So we came up with a plan. We endowed our pulpit. Our pulpit is now in honor of Bishop Cerveny. But some of the people that he loved also wanted to give money to start a speaker series. So each year we would be able to bring speakers from across the world through whom the Holy Spirit was moving in a powerful way. This morning, we are blessed to welcome Reverend Becca Stevens. Becca is the chaplain at Vanderbilt University, and she is the founder of an amazing organization called Thistle Farms. She has felt called by God to welcome women who have been in prison, involved in human trafficking or addiction, to welcome into the homes, which they call Magdalene House, where they can begin to heal. They have created a business where they make skincare products and jewelry and beautiful things, and that's how they support themselves. And this has grown and grown and grown. And her products from Thistle Farms are for sale in our bookstore today. So let us welcome one of the great voices in this church, Becca Stevens.
Thank you, Kate. You certainly are not preaching to the choir at this chapel. Hi, y'all. Just because my back's to you doesn't mean I'm not watching. It sounded so beautiful. I cannot wait to hear the anthems, and just already I'm just blown away. This is such a beautiful place. I love the gospel today that is just reminding us you are children of the light. Act like it. You are children of the light. Behave like it. Be faithful in it. Live into that light. And this is a great place and a great day to celebrate light. This is the church is on the hill. I mean, it's Billy Goat Hill, and it's really more of a mound. But you are the light on the hill for this city. For 186 years, you've been that light. Your whole telling of the gospel story through these stained glass is through light. This is a place of light where the children of the light come together to worship and be restored and renewed to go back into the world. What a great place to remember. We are children of the light. That is good news. But it's a complicated story of how we remember that and live into it. And today we have the great gift of celebrating the life that is Bishop Frank and his beautiful wife Emmy, and all they do and all the light that they have shined in this world. And they have been those children of the light. They are shrewd, they are powerful, they are faithful, and it's a beautiful gift to stand in testimony and honoring all that you've done on race reconciliation, on making sure clergy are stable in their ministries, on preaching and teaching for years and years. In my community, Thistle Farms is all about remembering the light. When we started out, we were just residential programs, and then we realized the women were still poor, dirt poor. And that violence and vulnerability of that poverty was a huge part of why they were on the streets. So we started making bath and body care products, but most importantly, lights. We made candles. And we said every day, we light this candle for the woman still on the street and the woman trying to find her way home. That a single candle can cut a path through the darkest night. Being a light and remembering that we are children of the light, it can be as small as a candle flame. And it can carry us far. It can transform lives. It can be a sign from God. That's why we put the candles right there on the altar. And when we bring the gospel out, we carry the light with us to remind us we are the light. And probably there's not a better apostle to remind us about what that light looks like than Paul. The whole journey of starting in darkness and then seeing the light. I saw the light. I saw the light. I mean, that's all based on that story. And if we were a different denomination, y'all would have all joined in and we would have had a great song going. As it was, no one moved. Totally get it. Just nod every now and then. Maybe we'll sing at the end. Maybe we'll just all get together and just sing a tiny bit of it at the end. But Paul goes from darkness to the light, and his whole journey is about what does it mean to bring the light into the world, and what does that path of light look like for us? What does it look like? So he tells this story in Acts 16. A young woman who is a slave. It's the story of human trafficking is the story in this gospel. In this epistle. It's the story of a young woman. She is the definition of trafficking. Coerced, enslaved, used as a commodity, bought and sold for other people's benefits. And she has this cry for help. She is crying out. And it takes a while, but Paul sees her. And so the first path of light is always to wake up. The sun rising is our signal to wake up. Wake up. The light is shining. This young woman is crying out, and you've got to wonder for us, what does it take for us to see her? What does it take as a community and for us as individuals to see the people crying out for help? We have to wake up into that and to know that there's places that we can go and be where we are allowed to wake up and see it, to live into our ideals, to see injustice, to see oppression, and say, we want to shine a light on that. That's the very first thing for all of us. We have to see. And the second thing, of course, is no good deed goes unpunished, right? So Paul sees her. He frees her from this. And then everybody's mad because when you're talking about women who have been trafficked, women who are enslaved, on average, the women that we serve first rape between the ages of 7 and 11, first hit the streets between 14 and 16 years old. The United States of America, one of the top 3 countries in human trafficking, sex trafficking, along with Mexico and the Philippines. The most vulnerable people, young girls coming out of foster care. Undocumented young women. People who have known trauma, who have known this darkness, who get out there. And when you start seeing the light and freeing people, it comes at a cost. It's a big cost we got to pay up because it has religious implications. Look about what's happened in the church when people start crying out and people started hearing them about all the abuse within the church. Huge cost. It's religious, it's political, it's economic. And so, when this young woman sees the light, people are angry. And Paul is going to pay up for it. They're going to arrest him and put him in prison. There is this pain when we see the light, this cost to our own lives of seeing and acting in it. I know for me, in my story, it was beautiful. Yesterday, Emmy took us to lunch with you, Joan, and we sat there, and she said, why did you start this whole community for women that now has, 50 sister communities and 26 global partners? Why did you start all that? And it was like, was it a calling? And I was like, I don't even know. It started from my own abuse within the church at a young age after my father, the pastor, was killed. And it went on for years, and I was very lost and confused. And there were amazing people who loved me through that and helped me see the light, guided me and cared for me. But I don't know if it was, would you call that a calling? Is that what that is? And Tiffany, one of the great survivor leaders who's with us, looks at me and she goes, it was a calling. You had a calling from God. And you've helped hundreds and hundreds of women just like me. And I was so grateful for Tiffany to help shine a light back onto me so I can remember. And that's what we need sometimes. To remember the cost in our lives of seeing it. And feeling like those precious places are what connects us the closest to God. And then the third step in this path of light is shake it up. Shake it all about. You know, once everything gets light shed on it, it all is just, the truth comes out. It all gets shaken up and shaken around. You know, and light shedding truth and shaking everything up is quite startling. You know, you've seen this when the light shines in your house and you see how messy it is. Or on your face. It's like, wow, I look much better at this age in candlelight. You know, the bright, pure sun, unadulterated, is a little much for me. We see it and it shakes it up. And what happens in the story, Paul pays the price. He pays up. He goes to prison. And there's a huge earthquake and everything gets shaken up. All the walls fall down. People are freed. It shakes us to our core. It changes us, this light. It shakes us up so we can love the world better. You know, all we do so many times is we just see dimly the light, they say. We look dimly into it. We cauterize it. We compromise it. You know, we compartmentalize it. We do all these things so we don't have to look directly into this bright light. To be shaken again so we can love the world better. And then the best news in the world is after the wake up and the pay up and the shake up, there is a free up. Everybody's freed. I mean, the jailer gets freed. That's crazy. He had the keys the whole time. And when he saw the light, he falls to his knees and says, I'll go anywhere you go. I'll do anything. And then Paul continues on this journey to love. That's what it's about, being these children of the light. We are shrewd. We are brave. We are fearful. We are imprisoned. We are all these things, but mostly we are beloved. So many women who have come through the doors of Thistle Farms that remind us of that journey of light have reminded us over and over how beautiful and powerful it is. And when we can shine one more light, sometimes whole cities are lit up. One of those women is a woman named Doris who came years ago into Thistle Farms and tells the story of her father being shot and him actually falling and dying on her at 12 years old. She goes to the streets, she medicates, she's trafficked, she stays out there for years and years and decades and goes in and out of jail. She said, I was trapped, I couldn't see a way out for 26 years in a 10-block radius. She couldn't see it. She comes to Thistle Farms full of fear, full of joy, all of those things that we have. Inklings, little tiny places to see the light, but she had never really seen much of the world at all. Never seen a sunset from the ocean. Never seen the top side of a cloud. Never seen, all the stuff that we take for granted right here in Jacksonville. But she had seen, the inside of prison walls and the underside of bridges and the backside of anger and the short side of our justice system that forgets that women were victims way before they were criminals. She comes to me to Florida for her very first trip, first time to fly, first time to see the ocean, and she wanted to see it all, and she was really fearful. And we got here, and this was years ago, and I said, Doris, come on, just go down to the beach and see it. And she said, I'm too scared. And I was like, Doris, sharks rarely climb up on the beach and bite you. I'll be right there with her. And I got to be there with her right when she started walking through the sand, and she walked into the tide for the first time. And in pure Doris fashion, she felt it, and she felt the Spirit lifting her, and she raises her arms and she says, "Has this been doing this my whole life?" Yes. All those years she was walking on the street searching. That tide was going in and out. I mean, for as long as the moon has been spinning around the earth, the tide goes in and out. And more deep and more powerful and brighter than that is love. But sometimes it takes a community to help us get to the shore to feel that passion and that power. You know, she touched her toes in the water that day. Last year, we got invited to go on a cruise, an 11-day cruise. Thistle Farms was going to get a percentage of all the cruise, and we're just doing talks in the morning to inspire people in the Caribbean in January. And I called Doris, and I said, "Doris, go get your passport. We're going out to the 7 seas." Oh, Lord. So she goes, and she gets the passport, and with much trepidation and joy, she gets on the boat. And then the Lord called up a big storm. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, this is the kind of storm where everybody that works on the ship, has those patches to not throw up, that kind of thing. I'm like, Doris is going to lose her mind. She's going to lose it. The next morning, we're the first up. And Doris gets up. And she's on stage first. We're on the 4th floor, right at the bottom, and we're just rocking back and forth. And she gets up there. And she's rocking with it. And she uses it as a rhythm to start singing. And she sings this praise song to 1,000 people on this boat about Jesus being the steady one in the midst of the rocky seas. She was such a pure and bright light. And we almost lost that voice. Preaching to 1,000 people about what a beautiful light that can be. We got this. We are children of the light. We can keep going back out there and loving the world again and again and again with a bright as light as we can muster, and praising God for the gift.